It's not that unusual for people to have secrets. Everyone has a few embarrassing moments or maybe a choice they made years ago that they're not super proud of. Because people had no idea that their seemingly normal neighbor was a brutal killer. We'll get into the details of his crimes soon. But first, let's go over how this monster lived a normal life for all those years. But some secrets are far more sinister than others. Some can stay hidden for a really long time. That was the case for the terrible crimes of the Golden State Killer. In fact, this criminal was able to evade police and terrify victims for almost a decade. He was even named Officer of the Year in 1976. They opened their front door to investigate, saw that someone had broken the rear window of their car. At the same time, a masked man entered the house. The couple fought back, but the attacker was strong and managed to knock the man unconscious. Victims reported that he seemed to know their routines well. Who could assert dominance over his victims in the only way he knew how? Now, if you've already watched our previous videos, you probably know where this is going. Remember, Joseph was a police officer at the time. He started breaking into houses and attacking couples who lived there. Many of these couples were in their 70s, but the killer didn't care about their age. He beat them violently and then stabbed them multiple times until they died. He was even caught on camera at one of the crime scenes. But despite having a grainy image of the killer, nobody could find him. They were able to confirm that the same perpetrator was involved, but police needed more than DNA to make an arrest. Fortunately for investigators, DeAngelo inadvertently provided the key to his own capture. And when compared with millions of entries, the results showed that many people shared small percentages of their DNA with the Golden State Killer. This created a family tree with tens of thousands of potential matches. Although he was suspected of the attacks, nobody wanted to believe that a respected member of the community could be responsible. He left lots of it behind. According to news reports, he didn't show emotion when he heard his sentence. But regardless of how he felt, the families of his victims finally had answers. After 40 years, the case was closed. In fact, he left enough genetic material behind at various crime scenes that he was essentially creating a DNA database of himself. He will never see his children again, his most evil people in history, and most terrifying unsolved mysteries. And watch more videos from the final hour. See you next time. He will spend the rest of his eternity in prison. It was a goldmine for modern forensic science. But it also begs the question, did the police ever get close to catching him during this time? You bet. Back at the station, they searched his belongings and made a grim discovery. They found letters that he had sent to past victims. Some of the letters contained disturbing messages. Here's one example. "Hi, I'm one of your old boyfriends. You remember when we played in the evening in the moonlight?" Nobody realized that he was also committing murders in addition to his other crimes. But eventually, the body count rose so high that authorities had to step in. In 2020, now age 74, he pleaded guilty to 13 counts of murder and 13 counts of kidnapping. Even though he could have easily spent the rest of his life behind bars without ever seeing daylight again, he chose not to accept a plea deal. Could have avoided the death penalty. Instead, he pled guilty to all charges. He admitted to the murders he was charged with and dozens more. But prosecutors agreed not to seek the death penalty. To him, they collected discarded tissues, coffee cups, and other items containing the killer's DNA. He said, "I have a roast in the oven, and then I know why you're here." His demeanor was so calm that the officers initially asked him to come peacefully. But they knew the moment they stepped into that house that they were facing a monster. And they followed the trail all the way to the front door of a man named Joseph James DeAngelo. He must have staked them out for days, waiting for the right moment to pounce. But back then, DNA was rarely used in court cases. Authorities didn't even know what to do with the evidence they had. The original Night Stalker murdered at least 12 people in the East area. Rapist was suspected in over 50 attacks. Each case was investigated separately for decades. But advancements in DNA technology revealed that the same person was responsible for both. They found a partial profile of the killer's DNA on several of the crime scene kits that had been collecting dust in storage. Finally, the killing spree ended as quickly as it began. He told his victims that he was merely robbing them, but he also forced the husbands to engage in sexual acts with their wives, and sometimes with him. He was never seen again until decades later when he was finally captured. So how did police catch up with him? First, we need to talk about what DNA revealed about the connection between the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker. called it his special treat. He then tied up both victims, blindfolded them, and stole money and jewelry from around the house. Before he left, he warned them, "Don't go to the cops. If you do, I'll come back and kill you." And that's exactly what happened. No one suspected that he was spending his free time doing anything but being a good cop, loving husband and father. But in reality, the police had no idea that they were dealing with the same perpetrator. All they knew was that a terrifying new criminal was loose in Sacramento, and so the hunt began. He was just biding his time until he could strike. His method of operation was always the same. He would scope out a house for days, making sure that no one was home. When it's on my Sometimes he would hide in a closet or under the bed. Other times he would stay out in the open. He lived in the suburbs. He had a job, a wife, children. He watered his lawn. He waved to neighbors. He used to be a cop. No one knew that inside this man lived a monster. Let's take a deep dive into the shocking story of the Golden State Killer. Joseph James DeAngelo was born in 1945 in Redlands, California. He grew up in a normal household with 2 parents and 3 siblings. As he grew older, he joined the United States Navy and became a policeman. All signs pointed to a man who wanted to do good. There were no warning signs that he would become one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. He worked as a police officer for a short time in the town of Auburn. But after a year, he moved to the nearby city of Sacramento. He worked for the Sacramento Sheriff's Department for about 2 decades. She also claimed that he was violent toward their children and regularly whipped them with a belt. So while he may have been a model citizen in the eyes of his co-workers and neighbors, he wasn't a good husband or father. During that time, he met a woman named Sharon Hudson, and they married. The couple had 2 children together. On the outside, they looked like the perfect suburban family. But behind closed doors, things were a little different. In fact, according to interviews Sharon gave after her divorce from Joseph, she claims that he was physically abusive during their relationship. Regardless, he continued to build his wholesome public image. He helped coach youth sports teams. He volunteered at church functions. He attended local events. In June of 1974, an African-American man and woman were watching TV in their home when they heard a noise outside. The following month, a similar attack occurred, as did another similar attack after that. During the next 10 years, the man known today as the Golden State Killer terrorized the central part of California. As soon as the unsuspecting family walked through the door, he would jump out and attack. Many people have speculated that this was a form of power play for the killer. After attacking 5 couples in Ventura County, the police collected enough evidence to make an arrest. The suspect, Joseph James DeAngelo, the police let him go. Despite having evidence against him, he was able to avoid suspicion for the next 10 years. During the early 1980s, Angelo moved his activities south to Southern California. In fact, the only reason they knew the Golden State Killer was responsible was due to DNA evidence. In 1986, DeAngelo simply vanished, as mentioned earlier. By comparing this DNA with other investigations, he didn't destroy any of the evidence. In 2001, scientists uploaded the killer's DNA to a new website called GEDmatch. This is a public genealogy database. At first, this seemed like a dead end, but instead of giving up, investigators began visiting distant relatives of the killer, hoping to get closer. He didn't seem surprised to see the police. After searching the property, they arrested the 72-year-old man and took him in for questioning. This was the last thing the Golden State Killer ever wrote. Instead, he was sentenced to 275 years in prison without parole. Today, Joseph James DeAngelo remains incarcerated at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego County, California. He will never get out. Now check out more of our videos, including stories from our series,